Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of BrandVision Marketing's Brand Boost. You know, there are many elements that go into the creation of a successful brand. Your brand's color scheme, for instance, serves as a valuable tone setter. Your brand's personality that serves to help personify the brand, to bring it to life and create that budding relationship with the consumer. And your brand's tagline, which helps position it in the minds of consumers. So the core elements of a brand are many, and those are just three of them. Those elements provide a foundation and direction for the brand, all revolving around that relationship that your brand is seeking to build with the people who matter most, your customers. The tagline, however, is a core branding element that many companies have shelved in recent years. They just don't use them anymore. So that's what we're going to be talking about today on this episode of BrandVision Marketing's Brand Boost. The value of a tagline and why, and maybe I'm being old school here, but why you should include that in your arsenal of brand building tactics. Now, taglines historically have served a great purpose. I don't think there's any question about that. When I say just do it, when I say the quicker picker upper, when I say finger looking good, chances are you didn't have to think too hard to get two of those brain cells to rub together to come up with Nike, Bounty, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, or KFC as it's been known since '91, when hearing those taglines. Now, the notion that taglines have been dubbed by many companies as not being of value, it's kind of phenomenal to me. I mean, I kind of wonder where Nike would be today, and would it be the force it is today without that just do it tagline. I know they really emerged front and center on the shoe scene with NBA endorsements and had primarily been known for running shoes prior to that. But that just do it tagline was an important force in reaching both of those markets and both of those elements. So the idea that we're just not doing taglines anymore is, I think, a mistake. So first, let's look at the opposing arguments. Now, I'm someone who values growth and knowledge. I am not a self-professed guru or ninja like you see so often on LinkedIn. I want to learn constantly, so I'm more than willing to consider those opposing arguments. So let's look at those. And there are four mainly that I've been able to find online through various articles. But one says that taglines have a short shelf life. Two, with consumers on smaller screens and limited digital space, taglines take too much valuable space up. So they're eliminated. So three, taglines are given too much responsibility. And four, a tagline may not be needed considering your brand name. So, okay, two of those I would agree with. But wouldn't necessarily see those as reasons to eliminate the tagline altogether. And two of those kind of prompt me to say, well, hey, maybe you need to grab your ears and pull your head out, because there's no way that is a reason to eliminate a tagline altogether. So let's start with the two that I agree with. And that would be consumers have smaller screens, right? And that is true, absolutely true. As the advertising world pushes more and more toward the digital space is far more limited, right? Banner ads on mobile devices, even on desktops for that matter, just don't allow for a ton of elaboration. However, that doesn't mean you should eliminate something that is as helpful as the tagline is from your branding arsenal altogether. Rather, just don't use that tagline in those ads. Simple. It doesn't mean that you eliminate it altogether. It just means you don't use it there. Use it when space allows, but it's okay if you don't use it in everything. if you use it in your website, if you use it in your newsletter where you have more space, a TV, whatever, use it then. You don't have to use it every time. Consumers will be exposed to it if you're doing enough to create those touch points where consumers are benefited by knowing a stronger positioning range for your brand. So, but the world won't end if you don't use it in everything. If you got a campaign running on mobile devices, okay, don't use it there. There's not a problem with that. Second, taglines may not be needed considering your brand name. And again, true. If your name truly defines you within your category, then that's a valid point. However, does your name position you effectively against competitors within that category? Maybe, and most likely not. If it is the most likely not aspect, then a tagline can be a powerful and effective branding element that's going to create clarity and strengthen your relationship with consumers through your brand. Now, those are the two that I can get on board with. Those are the two reasons I can get on board with, but not necessarily would see that as an elimination point. Now we've got the "are you kidding me" reasons. Let's go through those. Taglines have short shelf lives. And this particular article stated that taglines typically last a year or two. For small businesses, the shelf life might be even shorter. I believe the reason is because a small business frequently changes as the market continues to also frequently change, end of quote. So if this is the case, the concept of the tagline was completely lost from the start. The tagline needs to reflect what the brand is at its core. That core rarely evolves away from itself. And I understand small market, small business, they do evolve. And your tagline will evolve over time with it. 1-2 years, maybe. 3 to 5 years, most likely. In small market local situations where there's not huge budgets, you may want to hold on to that tagline a little more consistently. I'll give you an example. One credit union client had a knack for constantly changing their tagline. Not because of a market shift, mind you. It had nothing to do with the market shift, but rather because the president just got tired of the old one. He fancied himself a great marketing mind and would change that tagline with a nifty phrase when they would dawn on him in the shower or something. But that change did little to deepen the continuity within the market. 8 new taglines a year did very little to do anything more than confuse the market. Especially considering some of those taglines, which I will not go into. But when that was pointed out, he claimed, and rightfully so, that Geico is always changing their tagline. I can change my tagline. And yes, they are, and many companies do. And again, taglines will evolve. But, when you consider those 3 well-known that we started the episode with, Nike, Bounty, and Kentucky Fried Chicken, 2 of those 3 are still in use today, decades later. One of those is not. Finger Looking Good, KFC's their tagline is now world famous fried chicken. So I pointed out to this client, who I love, by the way, but this was just, he wasn't on point here. But if you've got millions of dollars to dump into the marketplace, you probably have a little more flexibility to evolve your taglines more quickly than if you were dumping a couple thousand a month into the marketplace. So in the latter situation, when you're limited on budget, continuity is your friend, right? A nifty new tagline every month just... And I get it, you're in the corporate structure, you're exposed to that stuff all the time, you read that tagline constantly, you get tired of it. But just when you're getting tired of it is when the market is seizing it. So continuity, folks, is your friend in those situations. So changing the tagline is not your friend. So the second reason that I thought was kind of crazy was taglines are given too much responsibility. And I'm reminded of the Seinfeld episode where Jerry is sitting in the booth saying, "Hey, who wants responsibility?" The first thing that anyone asks when something goes wrong is, who is responsible? So nobody wants responsibility, and I guess the concern is that taglines don't want the responsibility either. But the tagline here, the concern is that it carries too much weight, that it's too long or confusing. It tries to do too much to corral the brand identity. And I would certainly agree with that, but it would not be a good tagline if it did that, right? You have to have a good tagline from the start, from the word go. And a good tagline is distinct. It is succinct, right? It's short. It's like seven words max. And it clarifies the brand's position. So if that is the case, that it's too long and confusing, that it corrals the brand too ineffectively, then it's simply not an effective tagline to begin with. Now let's look at why you should use a tagline. Taglines are an important component of those core branding elements that I spoke of at the top of this episode, because the tagline allows you to deliver not only a brand personality statement of sorts, but to communicate both the scope of what your brand is all about along with a relevant, unique selling proposition. It provides clarity as you attempt to position your brand versus competitors, and all of these things are so helpful to set the tone for your brand and its relationship with the consumer. Let's look at an example. Casper. Now, when you hear Casper, older viewers might think Friendly Ghost. Younger viewers are probably going to think box mattress, right? And Casper has been one of the leading brands in the category over the last decade. Now, often, especially in a newer category, right, being first in that category will help your brand stand out. And that wasn't really the case with Casper. In terms of the online boxed mattress space, Bed in a Box was launched first. Bed in a Box launched in 2006. And it wasn't until 8 years later that Casper emerged on the scene, almost a decade after the category originated. But it went on to, now with 100 plus companies in that category, it went on to really become a top 10 consistent player in that category, leading the category for many years. And how did they do that? Well, they built a brand, a distinctive, relevant brand that spoke to consumers with a message that jump-started that brand relationship. And in their case, it really started with the tagline. Casper wanted its brand to extend beyond a company that simply delivered a good mattress in a box with a hands-off, easy online purchasing experience. They wanted to stand for a better night's sleep, focusing on the entire sleep experience through the purchase of a Casper mattress. So with that in mind, the tagline emerged, "Live a life well slept." 5 words, right? A great tagline that checks every box in terms of the branding criteria, and it provided a semblance of personality for the brand. It relayed a tone of the company's mission, while really serving as a foundation for the brand's evolution moving forward. And that is what a tagline can and should do. In Casper's case, it served as a springboard for the brand's emergence in a category that was filling up with competition pretty quickly, and helped them emerge front and center. Casper's brand served as a distinction versus competitors, and it all really started with their tagline. And honestly, I am a big fan of taglines. I'm old school. Call me old school, that's fine. But I think they should be a part of your brand arsenal. They should be a core component of your brand, even if you can't use them in your in every digital ad. That's okay. but they can be a valuable and productive part of the brand message you're trying to relay. So, have questions, want to talk further about your tagline, for instance, give us an email at info@brandvisionmarketing.com or go to brandvisionmarketing.com today to schedule a discovery session with an account manager. Thanks for listening to this episode of BrandBoost and listening to my rants about something that I am kind of passionate about, is the tagline. I love taglines. So thanks for listening and have a great week.